Good day, everyone. So today I'm going to show how to create this fun project with a glass rotated around a sphere. Thought this would be a lot of fun to learn how to do gradient texturing with glass as well as creating forms. So join me. Thank you. So in Blender 3.2 is what I'm using here. I'm actually using the K-Cycles version just because I like the rendering better. It has better options. So we'll start off jumping in here and deleting the cube. So that's the first thing. Then I'm going to go into the Add section under the Modeling section, and I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to get a UV sphere. So these settings are fine because I'm going to be using this just to use it for the form. So what I normally do on this is I'll just go and do a shade smooth. And then if you go to the right side here, there's a section with the little triangle. Just go ahead and hit that, go to normals, and hit smooth. Alright, so that's all done. That way when it forms, it actually has all these properties. Secondly, I'm going to create another sphere, but right now I'm going to call this outer form. So here I'm going to create another sphere. I'm going to add mesh. I'm going to add another UV sphere. This time I'm going to bump this up to make it much smoother looking. 64 under segments, 32 on the rings, and that sounds good. So now that I'm here, you see the sphere. I'm going to also right click and shade smooth. Again, make sure the auto smooth is on the normal section here. Okay. So now you can hide this one. So this is what we're going to be working with first. So I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to go into this other mode so I can see what I'm doing. See how the lines are very straight? I'm going to rotate these around to make them basically go around the sphere. To do that, I'm going to go into Modifiers where this little wrench is right here. Put an Add Modifier. And then here, there's a thing called Simple Deform. You select that. And what you want to make sure is you're looking at the Z-axis upwards, so we want to hit Z. And right now it's going at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to change that to 90. I've done a few tests like this. I kind of like 90. You can do whatever you want, of course, but that's what I'm working with. Okay. So now I've done that, I want to go back into the actual, first of all, we want to make sure we apply this. You can't go into object edit mode unless you do that first, or it will go back to its original pose or form. So in here, I'm going to actually now go into edit mode, and what I'm going to do is select the line tool here, and then I'll hit the Alt Shift key and hit the line. Now that I've done that, see it goes all the way around basically. What I'm going to do now is actually Shift D. Let me make sure before I forget to do this. Turn on the screen capture. So there we go. It's on the bottom there. Alright, so Shift, so you can see what I'm doing. D. And I'm just going to right click so it goes back. And then I'm going to actually go into Mesh. And then I'm going to say I want to separate this selection. Here we go. So go back to object mode. See, there's that, and there's this. Actually, it is the, you just delete this one altogether now. So let's delete this. And then there's your line. Alright, now I'm going to actually modify this line to make it look a little better. So go back to edit mode. And in here I'm going to go to points. So I'm going to delete the first three. You can do whatever you want, but that way it's not following all the way around. These three. I'm just going to hit delete. Delete vertices. Okay, you still got the shape. What I'm going to do is create an up section and a down section for the thing to hold. It's like a cage around the ball is what I'm looking for. So if I hit this top one, I'm going to hit the this 3 key with a side view. And now I'm going to use the extrude key. So I'm going to hit E, I'm going to right click so it goes back. Then hit the G key. I'm going to make this go onto the Z axis or Z axis. So I'll hit Z. And you see it on the right side. I'm going to go up about 3 or 4 sections. Let's go about here. See, this is your different, this is your Z area where you're going toward the Z. Y is to this right or left. And then X is basically the other way. Right, so now I've done that. I'm going to do the same thing here. Go E, right click, G, and then hit the Z again. Go down. This will give you the form on the base. Okay, so now I'm going to actually go in and also hit the E key. I'm going to make it at an angle. Same thing here, E key, at angle. And then here, this time I'm going to actually hit down. And this is Control Z. Hit the E key again. Right click. Hit the G key, the Z key, and just go straight down. This way the end of the thing will be straight down. Same with this one. E key, right click, G key, the Z key, go up. There we go. Okay, so this is what we've created. Doesn't look like much, but this is where the fun starts. So now that I got this all created, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change this, go back to object mode. I'm going to change this into go in here to the object section, go down to convert, and make this into a curve. Okay, what that does, it gives you this little thing right here for curve. Now if you select this and you go to geometry, right here, you got a section down here, it says depth. This gives you thickness to the line. So I'm going to make this 4. Kind of blocky, of course, but we'll fix that in a second. I'm also going to fill the cap. And that's pretty much it for that. So now that I've done this, I can go in here and say, we can convert this again. So let's go back to, actually if you right click, you can convert to mesh. Okay, so like I said, it's kind of blocky. It depends what you're looking for, but I like it smooth. So I'm going to go back to the modifier tab with the edges here. Click on this, add modifier, and then let's subdivision this thing to make it nice and smooth. I'm going to go with like 2. 2's good. It's nice and smooth. It's not overbearing, and it won't hurt your system too bad. Now, if you wanted an edge a lot tighter, you could actually hide this real quick right here, and you can add in some edges there to give you a little bit more of a defined edge if you wanted to. So for instance, if I want this a little tighter there, I could just use this loop tool, bring this up a little closer, this one a little closer. That's the only one I'm going to really do, I think. I'll go back to object mode and see this gives you now a little bit tighter edge there. Still smooth, but it forms down nice. Alright, so that's good. So now I'm going to unhide the sphere, and you see that it's actually inside the sphere. So I would like to scale this down just a little bit. So now that I'm in here, I'm going to hit the S key. We'll bring this down, no, the other way, just a little bit smaller than the edge of this edge here. Kind of like that. That's good. Okay. Now, what I want to do here is just add like a gold texture. So I'm going to go up to the top here. It says shading. Click on that. And then you see your sphere. I'm just saying I'm going to add in a new texture. going to create a metal all the way 100%, 1. And then I'm going to bring this down probably like 3. Give it a nice effect. Well, let's go 2.82. Now let's change the color. Color is everything. So now I'm going to go to like a goldish color. A little bit more of a copper, and go a little bit more over if you wanted. I think that looks good. So you could actually add in like roughness if you wanted to, or anything you wanted to add to this. But for now, I'm just trying to make this real simple. So here, get a little different perspective, but I'm going to hit the S key again one more time. I'm going to actually scale it up just a smidge and get closer to that edge. There we go. Okay. Now, the fun part. We need this object to go around this sphere. So we're going to go back to the layout on the top here. All right, so now that we got the object selected, now what we want to do is go ahead and apply this. You don't have to, but that's what I'm going to do. So nice and smooth. Now I want this to rotate around. So how do we do that? So if you go to add modifier, there's an array tool, right? So this array tool gives you a whole bunch of variations or amount. You can go as many as you want, but it goes in a line. It doesn't go around. So the way to get around this is you basically need to add, well, you don't have to, but this is my preference. You need to add in a empty. I'm going to go ahead and do the circle. That way it's in the center. Now when I select this, I'm going to go in here and say object offset. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to select the empty. What I also, a lot of times I'll do is I'll go ahead and say rotate around sphere. So you know what you're looking for. And now that you've done that, go back to this. And this one, you can actually do this, or you can actually just select it like that. There you go. So now that you've done that, and if you now you go into this rotate around, and you select the rotate tool, you can go around the device. But see, it's not really lining up. You know why? It's because we actually have this out of form on the factor. We need to take that down to 0. So now that we're on 0, see how it goes right around perfectly. So now the way to figure this out is I want to go around this 360 degrees basically, and I want to, you can just do it by visualization, just by looking at what you want to do, or you can do it by mathematics to figure out how many you want. So here, back to 0. I'm going to count. See, let me just do this first. Go back in here and say, how many times do I want this around? So I'll get our calculator out just to make sure I understand how many times. So I'm going to do 15. So I get the calculator out. I know it's going 360 degrees. And I'll divide it by 15. That'll give me how many degrees each one. 24 degrees. So that makes it easy that way. Right, so now in here, I'm going to go back to this rotate around, and I'm going to basically go back to 0. Then I know exactly what I'm doing here. So take this, and I'm going to do 15 of these. Hit enter. And it's still, we're going to still base it off of, we can do this too. This one, rotate around. And then I'm going to go back again in here and just rotate this one 15 degrees on the z-axis. Actually 24 degrees on the z-axis. So let's just go ahead and rotate it around. That way it exactly equals to the edge like you want it to. There we go. That's simple. Now you got your formed object. Alright, so let's go back in here. And as you can see, this is what we're looking at. Now, the fun part is is adding a gradient to this, into a glass gradient texture. So we can actually say apply. Now let me go in here. Again, go back to shading right here. We're going to say a new. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this. I'm going to go ahead and delete this section here. I'm going to add another. You go to shader, or you can actually type it in, but I'm going to go to glass VSDF. Just like that. Select this to here. And what I want to do is I want a color ramp to control this. So the way to do that is go to add. You just do search ramp or color, and you come up with your color ramp. This will help you change the colors through time. It doesn't look like much, but it's going as an average right now. What I also need to do is add in a separate X, Y, and Z. Separate X, Y, and Z. So there you go. And then again, I'm going to go based on the top going upward. So Z goes here. All right. So that's that. Now, what I also need to do is, you can also add the nodes to this, but I'm trying to make this simple so everybody can just follow along. We need to add in a mapping here, and also a texture coordinate. So we're going to put this vector to this vector. All right, and now we're going to add in a texture coordinate. So let's go ahead and add texture coordinate. There we go. So the generated to the vector. Now, if you see, you can go get closer to this to get your effect. As you see, it gets darker, and if you bring this up, it goes darker to lighter. That's a really cool effect. So it's already set up for glass. But I'm going to change the colors here for fun. So now that you're in black, you just select this. You can bring this thing up here as bright as you want or as dark as you want. I'm going to go with a nice green texture. And that goes up to light up top. And now for this, I'm going to bring this a little closer too. And I'm going to change that color. Now you can do whatever color you want. I'm going to go with, again, similar to what I did before, to create that look. That's pretty much it for the glass texture. Comes out really nice. Now, I would recommend rendering this in cycles, just because it'll look much better. I always put on experimental. I'm using a different version now, just keep that in mind, which is K-cycles. I went ahead and spent the money on that because it just has a faster rendering and a better options with bloom and stuff. So if you go in here, you kind of get an idea what you're looking at. As you see, it looks like glass. And then another thing that I'll do is I'd make sure that when I have the glass selected, I'd go into this bowl here, and also make sure that the settings are set for need to go to viewport display, and in here I would hit screen space reflections. That makes the glass look a lot nicer. Okay, so that's that. Now a couple more things to add to this to make it look nicer. Base, basically. So okay, go back to layout, and what we're going to do is we're going to add in a sphere, or I'm sorry, a cylinder on the bottom. I'm just going to do that. Add mesh cylinder, and I'm going to add more segments to make it look nicer. Tab, and I'm going to bring this down to the bottom. Shrink it down so it's nice, like a plate, basically. And then I'm going to also on the Z-axis bring this down right to where I'm going to get the one key to see what I'm looking at. Just shrink this in a little bit, and you'll bring the it's not so rounded. I think I'll go with something like that. Here we go. Let's manipulate this a little bit more first, so that way we can actually just copy this and make it simpler, right? So first of all, right click, shade smooth again, and the triangle again. I'm going to hit the normals, auto smooth. That way all the edges will come out nice. Alright, so let's go ahead and edit mode. And we're going to select the edge tool. And I'm going to Alt Shift, hit that. And I'm going to use the bevel tool right there. Let's pull it out. About right about there. And I'm also going to hit the Alt Shift key again. And Alt Shift key again. And this time I'm going to do a little bit more detail. Just give it a nice look. So 3 would do, maybe 4. Alright. So now the next step. So we'll go to object mode. And in here I'm going to actually create another sphere, cylinder. Sorry. Another cylinder here. And I'm going to, again, bring this down on the z-axis. So let's bring this down. This time I'm going to shrink it down and put the height higher. So let me just do this. Let me do this. Kind of like where you want it, right there. So this is going to cut through the other object, basically. First I'm going to select this. And then I'm going to hit the add modifier and go to boolean. So once I'm in here, now I'm going to use this to drive the cut. Okay. So one thing you could do while you can actually go in here and say you want to hide that so you can see what you're doing. Let's take this off. So let's hide this. There's no reason to see this. So you can go under in here, underneath that little square, visibility display. You can just put that as a wireframe. And take the texture off, but wire. There we go. That way you don't have to see it. Alright, so see that what it does? It creates the opening here for you. Now what you can do is use this object here to help modify your look. So I'm going to go in here, back to edit mode, and I'm going to add a little bit of oomph to this. So I'm going to bring this in, hold that loop tool, bring it up right close to the edge there, a little bit lower, about there. Now what you can do is you can go in and select the edge again, and you're going to use the Alt Shift key here, and we can bring this down so that way it helps manipulate a little easier. Yeah, Control Z, sorry. It actually had the other line selected here. Let me try it again. Alt Shift. Okay, let's bring this down close to the edge. Alright, let's scale this up now. This will cause it to have a nice beveled look. There we go. Okay, object mode. So what you can do now is you can go back to the modifiers and just apply. Now you can go back in here and just delete this thing. You don't need it no more. So you may also shade smooth this. Again, hit the triangle, make sure it's on smooth. Alright, so that's that. So now we could create holes in this to make it look like it's going in, but for this tutorial I'm going to make it a little simpler and not do that. So I'm going to create and copy this. So I'm going to hit the Shift D, and then I'm going to go upward. And then I'm going to go to the right side, or top view, whatever. To the right side. Bring this up here. And then I'm going to hit the rotate key. And once I start rotating, you can actually manually put it in here. Negative 180. Here we go. And this one, I'm going to scale down just a little smidgen. it goes into that zone. Also, I'm going to make sure this is on shade smooth as well. As well as that. There we go. Alright, so that's pretty much it to get this look, but I'm going to now go in here and change these textures to more of a metal look. So let's go back to shading, do a new, and we're going to change it to kind of a darker gray, and I'm going to make sure this is on metallic, and I'm going to add, take down the roughness just a little bit. I'm going to go like 3, and this will be called metal 0.003, and then if I select this, I can also select the same thing. There we go. That's it for that. Now let's add in a plain ground. So let's add in a new mesh, plain. Scale this up. Okay, go back to your side view and go back to layout. And I'm going to hit the bring it down tool. So it's right underneath the base here. Here we go. And I'm going to put some reflection on this too. So now, what I'm going to do is again go to shading. So basically, that's the light's going at that angle. Let's do a new. And we're going to create more of a kind of a color base. And we're going to add in metallic again. And we are going to add, take down the roughness just a smidgen. There we go. Okay. So one thing I could suggest is that you bring a camera in. Let's bring the camera in. So we go to the add section on top. Go into camera. There you go. Now, what you can do is actually get in closer with your mouse to get closer. And what I normally do is I hit the Control-Alt-0 key. This will put the camera right at that location. It's a little bit off normally, but it gets you at least where you need to be. Make sure you get your camera selected. Now, what I'll hit is the G key, and I'll hit the Z. Which one is it? The Y. Okay, so let's bring it back a little bit, and then hit the G key again to get in place. So I can bring it down just a smidgen. I want to get some nice reflections off of this. Alright, so that's that. And then what you can do is add in a light. So add in a light. I recommend I would go with an area light. This way it looks really nice. You can scale it up a little bit. And also, if you go to the 7 key on your keypad, you can see where that dot's going. I would bring it toward this unit. And another thing you can do on this is bring it up, bring it out. And in here, if you want caustics, that's one really good way to do it. That's what I selected on mine to get a nice color. And then I would also recommend just changing the color a little bit. Maybe a kind of a bluish color. And then I would also do if you go back to 7, you can actually do it this way easier. Again, Shift D. You can actually add another one over here and bring it toward it. And then this one, I'm going to change the color a little bit different. So let's go in here and see what we got. Gives it a nice look, but on this one, I don't want to create a shadow. So that one's off, and I do not want to cast a shadow. So this one here, cast shadow as well as shadow. Anyway, what I also recommend is maybe putting this more to the side, kind of like this. That way, active camera, And there you go. Now I just need to render. Alright, so once I go there, hit render, render image, and it starts to process. I hope everyone likes this video. I hope it helps in your learning. If you have any questions, please get back to me. Please also subscribe. Thank you.